After divorce, grief, or any major loss, it can feel like your heart is too shattered to ever love again. But what if those very cracks are what is creating a space for a much deeper, more meaningful love?
Exactly. Because sometimes you can think that your heart is actually broken for good, when in essence it's actually going through renovation.
I like that. So today we're talking about how heartbreak doesn't have to be the end of your love story. In fact, it may be the thing that prepares you for the most authentic love of your life.
Exactly.
Welcome to Saying Yes Again.
A podcast about second chances, real love, and opening your heart after heartbreak.
We're your hosts, Dr. Lisa,
And Tony,
a midlife couple who found love after divorce. And now we're here to share our story.
and to remind you that it's never too late to say yes again.
So put on your headphones and listen closely because your next yes could be the one that changes everything. Welcome back to Saying Yes Again. I'm Dr. Lisa, and I want to start today with a truth that you may not believe right now. That even after heartbreak, even after divorce or a major loss, love is still possible.
Yes, and I'm Tony, the other half of saying yes again. And I'm here to be a personal testimony that even after heartbreak or something extremely devastating, like a loss or something like that, there's still hope.
Yes, there is still hope. So today we are talking about that, right? Love after loss, how grief, how divorce, or a major life circumstance doesn't have to be the end of your love story. Instead, those painful chapters, those, things that we go through can actually prepare you for the most meaningful relationship of your life.
Yeah, because sometimes you think that your heart is broken forever, and it's not. It's just a work in progress. And we're here to show you some ways in which you can deal or bounce back from that.
Exactly.
Right, babe?
Because we are definitely a testament to that.
Yes, we are.
Amen.
We are. Yes, we are.
So if you've ever thought like a lot of I'm sure you out there may be thinking right now that that's it. I'm done. I'll never love again. It's just not happening. Just stay with us, okay? Just stay with us because hope has a way of surprising us, and it definitely surprised us. And your story isn't over. So we're going to just jump right in and start talking about the actual loss, right? The pain. So, divorce, death of a partner, even, or any major upheaval, right? Any kind of breakup of a long term relationship actually sometimes does leave us thinking, like, I'm done. I'm not letting my heart go through this again. Love
Right.
isn't for me anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, like I'm just not doing it.
No, no, no.
And we're here to tell you that we both have been there. So my story is, and I think I've shared this in the past, that I was married for 25 years. And when you get married, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, or 25 years, you don't expect there to be an ending to it, right? We don't go into marriage thinking that it's going to end. And certainly after that length of time, for me, it was very traumatic. 25 years, long
5
time.
years. Long time, babe.
Yeah, a lot of relationships were built, a lot of friendships,
Yeah.
my identity, my children, like all of that was kind of wrapped up into that relationship. So when something like that ends, it's very traumatic. And a lot of times it leaves you in a space where you're like, I'm done. I'm not really doing this again. But
Definitely.
we're here to tell you, that's the purpose of this podcast episode is to give you hope that it can happen again.
That's right. That's right. 25 years is a long time, babe, and I'm so glad that you were able to bounce back. When I reflect upon the time period where I was going through my divorce, it it happened like on the heels of my unfortunately lost my sister in 2013,
Mm,
right? And shortly after that, 2014, May of 2014, we lost my mom.
mm,
So, I mean, you figure the loves of my actual life, these are the people who've defined love for myself. In the latter part of 2014, around November, we lost my brother,
mm.
right? So these are people that I've had tremendously close relationships with that. And Thereafter, in 2015, I got a divorce,
Mm,
right? But I was able to bounce back from those things simply because I sought third party help, right? I went to the professional counseling, etc. So there is a process, right? We have to seek those people or those persons who can facilitate that process and help us in this whole plight of healing again,
mhm.
right?
Yeah,
And that's what I
definitely.
did, so
Yeah.
and I'm glad to be able to be here today.
Yeah, and I think we wanna just continue just to spread, the message of hope, and we even do
Yes,
that on our, social media platforms. We
definitely.
recently shared a story about a 90-year-old
Oh my God.
couple that got married. I mean, she and they went through the whole thing. She had the whole wedding dress on. I mean, they were in the church. It was a whole, like, wedding ceremony.
She
They
had
didn't cut any corners.
the part that I was most intrigued about is when she had the whole flutter situation going on. I'm like, 90?
Right.
She's sitting in the car and she's looking out afar with the whole fluttering episode surrounding her. And I thought that that was absolutely gorgeous. So if
Yeah.
somebody at the tender age of 90 can still put hope out into the atmosphere, if somebody at the tender age of 90 can be
Yeah.
courageous enough to dare to love again, or like we say yes again, why can't we?
Exactly,
Right?
exactly. Yeah, I just love that story. So if you
Oh,
haven't seen it, just go to our social media platform. It's on our Facebook page and our Instagram page, and you just need to see it. You just need to
yes,
see it. It's and
definitely.
we shared it from someone, but it was a beautiful love story.
Yes, a blessing.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about, you shared with us basically about grief. I mean,
Yes.
from the standpoint of just, losing, your family members, your sister, your mom, and your brother, and then going through the grief of, the divorce as well.
Hmm.
And sometimes, well, not sometimes, but grief does, it really changes us,
Yes,
you know?
definitely.
It changes us, but it also refines us as well, right? And I think it's important to talk about those lessons that we learn through the grieving process
Definitely.
and
Definitely.
reframing the loss as maybe what's preparing us, for what's next to come.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think that when I think about loss, I think about it now in the sense that sometimes it helps us to, we always use this word reframe, but I think it helps us to think about, what it really means to love again and not think of it in the terms of it being this fairy tale or this illusion of what we think love is. It really shows us what really matters, right? The
Yes.
things that really matter. And it also can make us really capable of loving deeply and
Yeah.
authentically.
Yes. A more complete love, a more, authentic love because you've dealt with the depths of pain and sorrow when you have close persons in your family, etcetera, pass away,
Mhm.
and in addition to dealing with divorce.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, you have a refined definition of what love again feels like,
Mhm.
looks like,
Yeah.
and could possibly be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here are some examples of what I think sometimes reframing loss as preparation can look like. For a lot of us, it provides or it gives us a space to have greater empathy for other people, right? Because we've been
Mhm.
through that loss. We know what it feels like. So when we encounter someone who's going through that, we empathize with them. We know what that feels like, and it allows us to show up for our friends and people in our family and our other relationships a little bit more tenderly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about clearer priorities? We're less tolerable of the superficiality of certain situations, we just look at things from a totally different perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't tolerate drama anymore. When you say clearer priorities, I think about that as well.
No more
Right?
drama, baby.
More drama,
Right?
right? We're really clear about what's important, and then the other
Yeah,
stuff kind of gets pushed to the side.
exactly. Time is of an essence,
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think the other thing that sometimes happens is that we start to create these boundaries that we may not have had before, but we
right?
certainly have now because,
Mhm.
again, we know what's important. We know what we will accept and what we won't accept. And we understand the importance of time and what it means, to have. joy in our lives again. So
Yeah,
those boundaries become really important.
exactly. And we're at a point or in a place where heartbreak turns into love 2.0.
Mm,
It's like your whole system has been debugged, right? You have a new version of software now, if you will, especially when you get to this sweet spot where we are.
yeah.
I'm 59, she's 21. You know what I mean?
La la.
So we become refined. So our paradigm shift and everything has already happened. We're looking at things totally different,
Totally different.
you know?
Upgrade, baby, upgrade.
Yes, yes.
So let's talk a little bit about what healing looks like, right? Because we know that in order to kind of go through this process of, and we've talked about it in our previous podcast, but what does healing look like, as we're kind of going through this period of loss to say yes again. So I think one thing is that we know healing isn't linear, right? So it's no straight line, there's no straight
Mm-mm,
path. I can't give you, a playbook to healing because it's going to be different for everyone. It's a little messy, right?
mhm,
But
mhm.
we do know that healing is possible.
Definitely, definitely. And that healing process, for example, when I went through my situation, I sought out professional counseling. I knew I was in a place where I had gone through a lot of different things, and I wanted to obviously be at the end of the road of that. But one of the key elements in terms of me getting to the end of the road of that
Mhm,
emotional process was seeking professional help. A
mhm,
lot of people don't like to talk about it. In some circles, it's deemed to be taboo, but in my circle, it's not. I need to get back to the complete and total Tony Gowdy, and emotionally healed, etc.
mhm.
Right? So I sought out counseling,
Yeah.
in an effort to get to the end of that whole deal, and it was very beneficial. My counselor and myself, we really went through some. We went. We really went through a lot of emotion, sometimes tears. We went all the way back, maybe 25, 30 years in my life cycle, etc. And we really have some emotional situations going on
Mhm.
there. But
Yeah.
that's what you have to do if you're committed to this thing. You have to dig in and admit to having things that you can't rectify yourself. Right,
Absolutely.
babe?
I love that. Yeah.
You know?
That's definitely part of healing is that grief work, basically, right? What
Yes.
you're talking about. It's allowing yourself to feel, being aware that, again, like you said, there are some things that you'll have to go back to and revisit and make sure that, you've worked through that because we don't want to dismiss feelings. We don't want to push them down.
Mm.
But we do want to make sure that we are helping ourselves and sometimes, we need other people, like you mentioned, especially professionals, to help us to take the blinders off, to help us to
Oh,
actually
yes,
see
definitely.
what's out there. Because
Definitely.
sometimes we just kind of, walk around with blinders, not knowing what's really going on or what's affecting us.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. So I definitely agree with that. And healing also really is about giving yourself some compassion as well,
It
not being so
is.
hard on yourself,
Mhm.
right? Not feeling like you have to rush to be healed because there is no timeline.
Mm-mm.
And if somebody's telling you there's a timeline, then you need to get rid of them.
Yes.
If somebody is telling you, why aren't you over it? Then they're not in your corner, right?
Yes.
Because they should be helping you cross the finish line, not judging you for why you're not healed already.
You bring up a good point. Those people that you allow to occupy your personal space have to be those people that are super positive. They really have your best interest in mind or at heart.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Those are the type of people that are not going to rush you through this emotional process that's, takes a while to go through or to satiate.
Mhm.
So you want key people in
Yeah.
your sphere, right?
Yeah. And I think the key is the key people that's gonna help you again move across the finish line,
Exactly.
right? So,
Exactly.
help lift you up, help to, guide you in the right direction, not rushing you, but just helping you kinda move through that.
Exactly. I remember, babe, when I started after going through my process and even after going through some counseling, I began to work out. I sought to get a personal trainer and everything, something I haven't done for quite some time. And after we had gotten to a certain point, I started to realize that, I was beginning to feel joy again and started to realize I started to recognize this Tony that I was seeing in my mirror, you know?
Mhm.
Then and only then did I have a slight indication that I was on this path to self-actualization or to being intrinsically healed to a certain extent,
Mhm.
laughing again, liking or loving the way that I was beginning to look and the way that I was growing.
Yeah.
So, in other words, invest in yourselves in certain ways to improve yourself.
Mhm.
Mine was, spiritually and as well as exercising, etc.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I think that's the last part of healing, really, like you mentioned, is just being willing to hope again, being open, and being willing to take some risks, do some things differently,
Yeah.
start investing in yourself, doing things that bring you joy. So I can definitely attest to that as well. For me, it was definitely my daily walks or just going on my walks, going back into nature,
She
picking up.
loves nature, by the way.
Yes, I mean, all of the I could list the
Refreshing.
whole laundry list, but, you
Yes.
get my point. They're just, some things that that bring you joy, and you just need to just get back to those things again. Yeah, so let's talk about some practical ways that we can, help our listeners or that we can provide them with some tools that might be helpful as they're going through this healing process.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. I know earlier when we was talking about this episode, we was all excited about this. You were discussing something about happiness, and
Mhm,
how it's affected,
mhm.
were you going to chat about that? Or
Yeah.
saving that for later?
No, yeah, we're definitely gonna chat about it.
Okay.
We can chat about it now. Well, one of the practical tools I think that we were going to mention is making sure that you surround yourself, right, with hopeful things, hopeful stories, hopeful people,
Mhm.
that's your friends. Maybe it's that you're reading podcasts or listening to podcasts rather, or reading books. So surround yourself just with hopeful stories. But the part about the happiness that we were discussing is that some researchers studied happiness, many years ago, and it's known. You can look this up, and it's called the happiness study, and it's actually studied by people who study positive psychology. That's
Okay.
how I came across it actually
Is it?
during my coach training, because my coach training was in positive psychology. So
Okay.
learning, yeah, how people kind of respond to emotions
Okay.
and how that's important for us as coaches to help our clients through that.
Mhm.
But in that, we learned about this, happiness study. And basically, what it says is that um, 50% of what makes us happy
Wow.
is based on our genetics.
50% based on
50% is
genetics?
based on genetics.
Okay.
So that means that we all have this set point where we kind of live, right? And it doesn't really change much.
Wow.
So that's why you can see some people who are just like, skipping around happy. And then there are others who you may have to kind of bring the happiness out of them, right? Or they may have to kind of go through some different things to help bring their set point up. So it's really based on genetics.
So question. Excuse me. So are you saying the way that I perceive things, the way that I psychologically translate things are 50% of that is influenced by my genetics?
By your
The way
genetics, your
my
makeup.
makeup
Mhm,
is affecting the way
mhm.
I process things, look at things, translate things.
Exactly.
So we have to be aware
Yeah,
of
so you have to
that.
be aware of that,
That
absolutely.
is amazing.
Yeah, and then the other 50% is broken up into 40% of what kind of, makes you happy or can kind of bring on happiness are your intentional activities. So
Intentional.
those are the habits, the things that you do every day
Okay.
that you're intentional about.
Mhm.
So again, we talked about these, reading some hopeful books or listening to some hopeful podcasts
Okay.
or being around friends who kind of, make you happy. So those intentional activities, meditating, whatever it is that kind of brings you joy,
Okay.
right? So that has to become a habit. So 40% of your happiness is based on that. So if we could all just do some intentional activities to kind of bring about that happiness, think
Mhm.
about how different our outlook and perspectives might be.
Wow.
And then 10% of the rest of it, the 10% that's left, is based on your life circumstances. So that's your environment,
Oh, yeah.
where you live, where you work, the people you hang around, your income, and your marital status.
That's a good point. That's a good point because my mom did the best she could. She did a wonderful, an absolutely wonderful and amazing job. But, I can remember how where I was born and raised affected how I processed the information in school, in my environment, etc.
Mhm.
You
Can
know?
have a profound impact, on one's well-being. So all of that's really important. So it's important for us to kind of just remember that, think about that, and realize how important it is for us to be intentional
Mm,
about choosing happiness. Yeah.
wow.
So I think another practical thing that we can leave with you is the process of journaling,
Oh,
right?
yes. I love that. She introduced me to journaling, by the way.
Yeah. And journal, you can journal about anything, but maybe journaling about what you've learned through your loss. Like, what
Mhm.
did you learn from your divorce? What did you learn from your heartbreak? What, did you take away if you were in a relationship and your significant other is just no longer here? Journal about that. Journaling has been shown to obviously help us to process emotions,
Mhm.
but it's also been shown to decrease depression and anxiety and also reduce stress. So it's a great exercise, I think, to start doing.
I like what we were talking about earlier, babe, is, transferring a lot of what's here to here. Can you clarify that for us again? I thought that was a
Mhm.
good piece.
Yeah. So journaling is just that, right? It's transferring information that's kind of in your head, the things that we carry around, things that we're telling ourselves.
Yes.
A lot of times we just need to transfer that information somewhere else, speak it or write it down. So journaling is just that way for us to kind of do that, a way of processing the emotion.
Yes, yes. That's amazing. That's some good information. So, we'll just keep it moving right along.
Yeah. I think another practical example that we could share with you or tool is just to start practicing saying yes again, right?
Mhm.
So, first to just some really small joys, right? So, some small steps.
Okay.
And then eventually, once you sort of build up that reserve of happiness and joy, you can begin to start saying yes again, hopefully to connection and to meeting someone and to opening up your heart again,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like if a guy like myself could actually come back from heartbreak, right? I've mentioned or I shared some personal things that surrounded my whole episode of getting divorced with you guys, then everybody out there has hope, just like myself. We chose this subject matter because we thought that it was relatable. We thought that there's a lot of people that are secretly going through this type of thing, the heartache, the pain of divorce, coupled with the loss of close family members or friends. But I think myself and Dr. Lisa have more than exemplified the fact that, irregardless of the excruciating pain that we've endured in our plight, we were motivated, prayed up, consulted professional people to facilitate our process of coming back
Yeah,
and being
exactly.
able to say yes again, right, babe?
Yeah, exactly. So if you're listening today with a heart that still feels tender from loss, please hear this. You're not broken beyond repair. What you've walked through can actually prepare you for a love that's much richer and more real than anything that you've known before, right? Like Tony said earlier, it's the love 2.0.
Exactly.
So, as you go into this week, what we want from you, or we want to ask you to do, is to ask yourself one simple question. What is one small way that I can open up my heart again today? Right? Because it's those small joys. So, what's one small way that you can open up your heart again today? Maybe it's a smile.
Mhm.
Maybe it's a conversation that you have with someone that you
Mhm.
haven't talked to in a while, or simply just saying yes to something.
Mhm.
right? To a small joy.
Exactly. I like that. I
Mhm.
really do. And if that yes happens to involve wine or chocolates, we fully support that, don't we,
Fully
babe?
support it. Fully support it.
Especially her for wine.
You just it's a piece of work. Okay, well, thank you for joining us today on the
Yes.
Saying Yes Again podcast.
Yes.
And if today's episode encouraged you, if you feel like have a friend out there who might, obviously benefit from this, share it with them if you feel like they need some hope. And don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next episode. Until then, keep saying yes again to all things love, life, and second chances.
That's right.